I have to start off on this initially Fox News report, which I'm sure you're familiar with now. CNN is also reporting that essentially as the prime minister conveyed how serious an impact and how, devastating really an impact these potential tariffs would have on our economy, that the incoming president retorted essentially insinuating that Canada would be could be the 51st state. And I just a few minutes ago, I'll pull up on the screen, I think you'll be able to see it there. President Trump actually posted on social media this picture, which shows him kind of like looking off, I guess, towards Canada with the Canadian flag. I don't know. We've reached out to find out what that means. I don't know exactly what it means, but it's interesting that it comes after that report. What kind of information can you provide Canadians about, I guess, how seriously we should take that exchange, or if it in fact did happen?
Okay, I can't see your post, but you described it, so that's good. I haven't seen the post you're talking about. Look, this was a 3-hour dinner that was, and I just want to emphasize that in Mara Lago, in the terrace where people were eating, it was a very celebratory atmosphere. It was the holiday season, right? And so people were dressed up, little kids were running around. It was a really happy, joyous kind of atmosphere. And the president made jokes, other people at the table made jokes, people were making jokes, which actually I have to say I find to be reassuring. That, people are that comfortable with each other that they're teasing on things that, yeah, I mean, any good joke kind of always hits a little bit of a nerve. And certainly President Trump is one who likes to hit a nerve. So, here's what I would say to Canadians. Let's focus on the work that we have ahead of us and the work that has already started with the Trump administration. And let's focus on the fact that a few days after the prime minister or the president posted this post about the tariffs and the border, he was sitting at a table with the president and many of his core advisors. And I can tell you, Vassy, there is a lot of ambassadors here in Washington who are asking me how we got to, be the first leader invited to Mar-a-Lago, have our leader be the first leader invited to Mar-a-Lago after the election. And is there some trick that we had? And can I give them tips and tricks on that? So let's focus our attention where it should be, which is on the importance that this dialogue is serious and it's continuing, and not on the fact that the president, is enjoying this joking moment.
I guess if I were to take sort of a couple of things from that exchange, the first is that, understandably, and of course, our government and our prime minister would convey to him that those tariffs would have a big impact on our economy. Is it your view? Yes. That either he or the people around him are aware of the degree to which this tariff would impact our economy, but B, theirs?
I am fully confident that the people around President Trump understand that a 25% tariff on Canadian products will deeply affect our economy, and that it will also be very difficult for Americans. And if we end up, as we did with the 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum last time he was in office, in a bit of a tariff sort of tit for tat, that is very, very difficult for the United States. I have every confidence that his economic advisors understand that completely. The president also understands that based on the last time that we had this, this tariff situation with him. And I think, though, that we have to remember that he is someone who does believe in tariffs as an economic policy tool. So our task is to demonstrate to him that economic policy tool, whether he believes it's a good thing for the United States vis-a-vis other partners, when it comes to applying it to Canada, it is going to hurt Americans, it is going to cost Americans jobs, and it is going to raise prices across the board in the United States. We are starting that discussion. But I also would say, and this I think is really important, is that the president currently, and the vast majority of the conversation at Mar-a-Lago, was around border security. And that, for Canada, is a really important opportunity. It's an important opportunity for us to work as closely as possible with the incoming administration on the fentanyl crisis and on all matters around border security.
So when you highlight border security there, I am curious to know your impression of whether or not that is the sole reason or the main focus of the threat of these tariffs, or whether it also has to do with the economy, more so the trading relationship, because this reporting that was coming out last night, for example, was flagging the fact that he was very concerned about the trade deficit between our two countries, the U.S. trade deficit, aka we export more to the United States than they import from us. Do you believe? And I guess the reason I'm asking is because that informs what the solution to getting an exemption from these tariffs are, right? Is it just about fixing what happens at the border, which perhaps could be done in a shorter amount of time, or is it about getting rid of a trade imbalance that would take a lot longer than till January 20th? What is your impression of that?
So my impression is that right now, the president is really eager to have us talk to his team around border security, around the fentanyl crisis, and around ensuring that we are working to keep what they call their northern border as secure as it can be. That is the sort of mandate, and that is the hook that he has expressed for this potential tariff imposition once he is in office. Does he have views on trade balances? He does. We experienced that in the NAFTA renegotiation. He believes that a balanced trade is better for the United States than a trade imbalance. But there, we are going to have to, take some time to unpack that again with him, as we did before, around what the nature of our bilateral trade is and where those, where the differences come from. And primarily, because a third of what Canada exports to the United States are energy products, when the cost of energy goes up, we find ourselves in a situation of having a trade surplus with the United States. And we need to talk that through with him and his team, because another objective of the incoming U.S. administration is what the president calls energy dominance, which is ensuring that not only is the United States energy secure, but it has the degree and amount of energy necessary to power the AI revolution, to power the technological revolution. So enormous amounts of energy. And they can't get there without us. They just can't. And so we need to talk about that whole suite of objectives that he has to, as I say, kind of unpack where the trade imbalance lies between our countries.
So if the hook then is primarily border security, do you believe Canada can escape the imposition of those tariffs January 20th?
Well, I hope so. I mean, I hope so. I think that is the quid pro quo that was put forward in that post. That is what we are working on with them. That was the nature of the conversation at Mara Lago. And as I say, it's a huge opportunity for us to work with the Americans on things that concern us about the border too, right? It's not borders are by their nature go in two directions. And we would like to make sure that Canada is as secure as it can be from the influx of illegal products, illegal guns, illegal migrants. So this is a very good opportunity for us to work with them. So we'll see. We'll see. I think that one thing that everybody can recognize is that it is very hard to prejudge what President-elect Trump might do in the future.
If the tariffs are imposed, how soon is Canada willing to impose its own counter tariffs?
Well, I mean, we're not there yet. I really hope, and I think we will do everything within our power to make sure that we don't get there, because that is just going to make things more painful for Canadians and Americans. And since the USMCA has came into force, the new NAFTA, trade between our countries is at historic levels. So we should build on that and not trying to tear it down. We are the #1 customer for 36 U.S. states. So that is a really important fact that we're going to have to bring to bear. So we will work really hard on trying to avoid the tariffs being put into place at all. But we will do what we have to do to make sure that we safeguard Canada's economy and Canadian workers and Canadian businesses. And so we'll be prepared as we have to be to take measures in retaliation. But I am very. I hope that we don't have to get there.
So you talk about working hard, and certainly based on your reflections and the federal government's reflections so far on how that meeting went, or the fact that it even occurred at all in Mara Lago, it sounds like there's at least connections made with people who are in and around Donald Trump. What does the strategy look like, if you could add some specifics, between now and January 20th to try and secure an exemption from the imposition to these tariffs? Like, who are you or have you already maybe in the past few days, or who will you be talking to try and ensure that?
Yeah, so we're going to talk to the people that were at that table. I think that there was a definite direction, if I can put it, from the leaders to continue the conversations that started at the table. Howard Lutnick, in particular, their Commerce Secretary designate, who is also responsible for USTR. He is interested in understanding the border situation, even though he's Commerce Secretary, because the tariffs are connected to the president's border objectives and border concerns. He is right in the middle of that conversation. So he's one, but the future Energy Secretary was also there. Energy is a big part of our relationship of resilience with the United States. So I suspect we'll be talking to them and their teams immediately, really, and there have been a few follow-up interactions already, and we're on a path to continue that.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note. Ambassador Hillman, I appreciate your time this evening, as always. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.